I'm Assemblywoman Catherine Baker, represent the 16th Assembly District that you are in the heart of right now at the Dublin-Pleasanton BART station. And I'm here today with colleagues from all across the East Bay area to talk a very significant bill that is on the governor's desk right now. This is a bill with the right goal, which is more housing, particularly at our transit centers. But it has the wrong way to do it that will actually take us backwards. That's AB 2923. This is a bill that will take away from our local communities, whose leaders are here from all across the East Bay area, the ability to plan and develop housing with local input and local collaboration, and give that authority exclusively to a transit agency, BART. This is a bill I've been proud to lead with my very good colleague, Senator Steve Glazer in the Senate, the opposition for. And there's a variety of reasons why. You are standing on what used to be a parking lot at BART. It was triple the size of what the parking lot is now. And you now see multifamily, high-density, transit-oriented development right here, done with the work of the Dublin City Council and the community in this area. If you just go across the freeway, you will also see terrific, high-density, multifamily housing right by BART. That was done with Pleasanton's leadership. And that story is repeated throughout this Assembly District in Walnut Creek and Lafayette and elsewhere, and also in the Senator's District. It was done without BART taking over housing. And in fact, some of these projects were done despite BART. And today, the bill on the governor's desk will take that housing progress that has been so good in this East Bay area and put it with an agency that the least you can say is struggling to meet its own primary mission, which is reliable, safe, clean transit. Now is the time to help BART meet the struggles and challenges it is facing in its own project, not to give BART control of housing, in which it has no expertise, no staff development, and no background. And there's a better way: collaboration. Let's, instead of taking housing away from our local communities and giving it to a transit agency that's struggling, let's instead have that transit agency develop its plans and bring them forward to our communities and work together. That is the better way to develop transit-oriented development. And it's the way that this community has embraced. I am proud of Assembly District 16, just as I know my good colleague is of Senate District 7, of all the progress we've done in housing. But we need to go forward, not backwards. AB 2923 will take us backwards. And that's why we are joining together members of all the different parties before you and bicameral to say to the governor, veto 2923. Let's start over and do it right with collaboration. With that, I'd like to introduce my very good partner in the legislature, Senator Steve Glazer, the representative of Senate District 7. Steve.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine, and thank you for your wonderful leadership in representing your Assembly District. And together with my Senate District, we put up a good fight in the legislature. We weren't able to stop this bad bill, and so we leave it to the governor now to make this choice. But friends, I'm surrounded by wonderful community leaders, mayors, council members from all over the East Bay. You're going to hear from them in a few minutes. And they're going to tell you their story, which is apparent to everyone that's standing right here today, which is that our cities are acting responsibly in building housing, building affordable housing. Look around us today. Look at all these brand new units that have been built here around the Dublin station. Go across the street, you'll see more. Thousands and thousands of units have been built around our BART stations in the East Bay. Not with the help of BART, not because BART has put in an application to build. In fact, if you ask any of these mayors and council members, has BART been turned down in what they have come forward with to build housing next to their stations? And I think unanimously they'll say no. BART has never submitted an application to build housing. So why is this bill before us? Why would you take from cities who have acted responsibly and give the power to BART in this area? It's unexplainable. It's unexplainable, and we hope the governor will agree. Our cities are acting responsibly. A transit agency has never been given land use authority anywhere in California, anywhere. And we're going to give that special privilege to BART. Friends, there's the right way to do things, and then there's the BART way of doing things. And we know that history in our community. We need the transit agency to work, and they have a lot of things on their plate. This should not be one of them, and we hope the governor will vote no.
Thank you. you. Thank you, Senator Glazer. It is through collaborative efforts with our local leaders as well as members in the legislature that is amplified all across the state through the good work of other leaders who see the bad precedent that 2923 sets. I'd like for you to hear now from our very own local mayor of Dublin, David Halbert, to share exactly what his experience has been in this area and what this means to our community. Mayor Halbert.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you all for coming. And I want to echo the comments that were made by Senator Glazer and Assemblymember Baker. They really understand our communities, and they're doing a great job leading for us in Sacramento. But ladies and gentlemen, we've already done our part in Dublin, building thousands of units within walking distance of transit-oriented development BART station. We've done that not only in the West Dublin BART station, but here also in the East Dublin and Pleasanton BART station. We know how to build homes here in Dublin, and we've done that. We've done our part, and we don't think that taking away our housing and planning authority and ability is the right thing to do. It is indeed a step backwards, something that we don't need and something that will be harmful to our quality of life that we're trying to protect so much here in Dublin. Dublin is a great place to live, work, and raise a family, and we want to keep it that way. And keeping local control in our hands for housing decisions is exactly the right thing to do. So we'd ask that the governor would repeal or not sign this bill or not take a step back, but rather allow us to take a step forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I've had the privilege of living in Dublin for over 15 years and have seen the embrace of housing that Dublin has had of the entire housing stock in our area. And you can also see it in the town of Pleasanton, just on the other side of the freeway here, which shares this BART station as well as another one, the West Dublin station. So I'm very grateful to introduce to you the mayor of Pleasanton, Jerry Thorne, who's been a terrific leader for our community in this area. Jerry, please join us.
Thank you very much, Catherine and Steve, for bringing this press conference together. You know, I think what we're trying to do here with 2923, or what the legislators that have put it forward are trying to do, is to solve a problem that does not exist. If you walk right through the BART station and look across the street, across Owens Drive, we have built hundreds of high-density housing with retail on the bottom floor, which is called transit-oriented development. So it's just a problem that doesn't exist. We've also worked with BART on another piece of property that they have at our next BART station. They decided not to go forward with housing there, even though we had it zoned for it. So what happened there is we put Workday there so that the employees of Workday would have direct access to the BART station. So it's a problem that does not exist. And I believe that local people who live here are the ones that should decide what our local community looks like, not somebody in Sacramento or not somebody on a BART board. I think one of the other things that we should point out, that the ability of local government to control local land use is actually protected by the California Constitution. So, Governor, please veto this bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. Mayor Thorne is correct. That's Article 11, Section 11 of the California State Constitution that invests in our local cities and counties exclusive authority over housing and how their communities are shaped. And that because it just makes sense for our local communities to have feedback. They know what the water needs are, they know what the utility needs are in the master planning for a community. We also have another city council member who's been a great leader of the city of Walnut Creek, who's seen that example, who set the example and knows the experience with housing in her community, and that's council member Cindy Silva.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here this morning. Although this isn't a very good topic, housing is in a crisis in this state, and my colleagues from my other cities in Contra Costa and Alameda recognize that crisis. But to put it to practice to words, the city of Walnut Creek is building housing. In fact, in the last 8 years, we have added 1,000 units near our BART station, and that doubled the amount of housing already there near the BART station. Currently, our 600-unit transit village is under construction. And this is a project that we worked with BART on, but in fact, it is a project that Walnut Creek initiated with BART because they weren't particularly interested in housing. They wanted it to be a commercial shopping center. There are another 500 units that are virtually underway and another 4,000 units that are planned for in the next 20 years. We are planning for housing, we are building housing, we are working with our communities, and we are also ensuring that as housing goes in near BART, that we also provide access for those who do not live near BART to be able to park and use the transit system. Governor Brown, AB 2923 is a bill that you should not sign. Please veto AB 2923.
The Tri-Valley area is home to 5 wonderful communities that you have heard from, some of them here today, all of whom have many constituents who commute outside of the area using BART and live here for a great quality of life. One of those communities is the town of Danville, and I'm pleased to introduce to you Danville Town Council member Karen Stepper to share the experience from another part of the Tri-Valley on housing and what we need to do right, and that's veto 2923. Karen.
All right, thank you. Good morning. I'm here representing the Mayor's Conference of Contra Costa County. I'm very proud to lead that, and all the fine people that you see around you who are mayors of 19 cities who unanimously asked the governor to oppose AB 2923. We have seen BART ridership soar. We saw eBART open way beyond the ridership expected. Many of us are working on the San Joaquin Tri-Valley Valley Link, which will open in 2 years with more transportation than we can carry. That is the job of BART. That's the job of transit planners. The fine people that you see surrounding you are elected. They do the local planning for their cities. I can't tell you how important that is, that each of these cities is unique and that they have all cooperated with BART to make it successful. So please, we ask the governor to make sure that transit planning is kept to transit and that the city's planning is done by the fine people who have been elected to do so from all the cities in Contra Costa. Thank you.
Another part of the community that's a great example of building housing with community collaboration and also leadership across the state is the town of Lafayette, which I'm proud to represent in Assembly District 16, as well as Senate District 7. I'd like to introduce to you Council Member Don Tatson, Mayor Don Tatson, who's been a terrific leader for over 30 years on the Lafayette Town Council. He's seen different housing projects over those years come forward and the ways in which communities grow and work in collaboration together. I am very pleased to introduce Mayor Don Tatson of Lafayette.
Right. Thank you. Well, soon it's going to be retired mayor. So I am here to announce that Lafayette, joining with our colleagues, is requesting that Governor Brown veto AB 2923. I believe BART ought to use cooperation rather than coercion as a way to get its land developed. In my 33-year career on our city council, BART has never submitted a housing project, and in the meantime, we've approved hundreds of acres on private land around the BART station. We've never turned down a project close to the BART station. So I concur with my colleagues that cities and counties ought to have land use control, not special districts. In addition, there are other state laws that make BART land a good target or a place to develop housing in the future. This bill essentially gives control of the hen house to the fox. And I join my colleagues in urging that the governor veto AB 2923.
I'd like to build on the metaphor of the hen house and the fox. It's very important to understand what we heard from Sacramento in support of AB 2923 was housing's just not being done right. So we need to put BART in charge of housing. And in my mind, that's like saying our local fire department's not doing a very good job, so let's put the dog catcher in charge of the local fire department. When the dog catcher has no experience in housing and doesn't even live in the community that the fire department's going to be serving. That's what's happening with AB 2923. What you're consistently hearing from all the leaders here is not we don't want to build housing. It's that we're doing it. We're doing it smart. We're doing it in collaboration with our communities. And what we need to focus on is how BART can be better successful at the challenges it's facing. I'd also like to introduce to you Mayor of Concord, Eddie Burson, who's been a part of leading the effort in opposition to this bill. Mayor Burson.
I want to thank you again for everyone who's behind me, and I've been joining with you to stop this bill, AB 2923. One of the consequences that we're not hearing much about is, in Concord, We have a housing boom going on, a construction boom. At our North Concord BART station, we're going to be putting in over 3,000 units, 25% of which will be affordable. These plans are already in the works and being done. And they're being done under our zoning, under our rules, the same rules that BART has agreed and not said a boo about for the last 30 years. Now, if this bill goes through, those developers and those plans may be jeopardized by a whole new set of criteria coming in under AB 2923. We need to protect the development and the foresight that we have exercised on the local control in order to make not just housing for ourselves, but also to make transit-oriented work for our neighboring cities who don't have BART stations. People like Bay Point, Martinez, Clayton. They rely on our intelligent development and experience in making a community around the BART station. This cannot be duplicated overnight by a railroad. We need to get the railroad back to working the railroad and let the cities help from Sacramento to make the communities. Cities make communities. Railroads run trains. Thank you.
We've had great leaders in our local communities supporting BART in their effort to improve, get more fiscally under control, get operating budgets that work, to have more accountability, and to make sure they're focused on the challenges of having clean, safe, reliable transit. Two of those leaders are here today, BART Director John McPartland, and I believe also BART Director Debbie Allen, if she was able to make it. I'd like to welcome to the podium BART Director Deborah Allen, who's been very vocal, and with John McPartland and Mr. Keller, led an effort for a third of the BART board to make a written opposition for this bill. Deborah, thank you.
Thank you. So thank you. Governor Brown, I urge you to please veto AB 2923. I speak here on behalf of myself, not on behalf of my entire board, but this bill will only serve to further the mission drift of the BART organization. The BART organization has its hands full, and it should stick to transit until it can get a real solid handle on running that in a safe, clean, reliable manner. Does AB 2923 make the stations cleaner? Does it make them safer? Does this make the trains run on time? I don't think it does. This also, AB 2923 will ruin a spirit of cooperation that has evolved between cities and BART for the development of properties. The very fabric of BART's foundation, a trust and spirit of cooperation that is embedded in PUC 29010 from the very beginning when BART was first founded in the 1960s, that spirit of cooperation will be destroyed here, and we will face years and years, I believe, of lawsuits and arguing between cities and a transit district. I urge a veto of AB 2923.
Thank you. Thank you, BART Director Allen, for your leadership on the BART board, for common sense and responsibility and focus in improving our BART system in collaboration with your other colleagues, including John McPartland. I'd also like to let you know that the folks, again, you see are from all across the East Bay area. You have here together Brentwood Councilwoman Karen Rary, Clayton Councilwoman Julie Pierce, Danville Mayor Newell Arneridge, Councilwoman from Danville Renee Morgan. Also, I mentioned Danville Councilwoman Karen Stepper. You have also Dublin Councilwoman Melissa Hernandez. You have Livermore Mayor John Marchand. You have Pittsburgh Councilman Merle Kraft. There's San Ramon Mayor Bill Clarkson. San Ramon Councilman David Hudson is not able to be here today, but he's right on board with us as well. Pleasanton Mayor Jerry Thorne we heard from, also Pleasanton Councilwoman Carla Brown, and Walnut Creek Councilman Kevin Wilk, and Luella Haskew, a longtime leader in the Walnut Creek area. And Kathy Narum and Janine Thalbum. There's one piece of paper in front of me. I'm reading them all. What you see here are leaders working together to promote smart development around our transit centers. What you're not hearing is, please don't build this in my backyard. You're hearing build it, but let us do it in collaboration. That's the right way to do it. It's why we are coming together to call on the governor to veto 2923 and choose a path we are all committed to doing, and that's collaboration together with BART. With that, I'd like to take a moment to answer any questions that there may be, and I'm sure other council members would be willing to as well. Yes. Yeah, the question is, what's the impetus for the bill? Because the BART board has taken a neutral position. I don't even know that the BART board has voted on a position of this. They have.
And they voted on a neutral position.
And it is in a neutral position. And then the question is, what's the impetus for the bill? Well, that's what we're trying to understand ourselves. Many of the cities who are behind here and who are all around us with housing are showing we are building housing. What is the problem? Especially because MTC in our own Bay Area recently came out with a study over the summer that the communities that are most doing their job and meeting their housing numbers are in the Tri-Valley and on this background podium behind me. All around the Tri-Valley area. They're meeting their RETA numbers, they're meeting their housing. The three areas that are least affected by this bill and are most behind on housing: San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose. So you'd have to ask yourself again, what could possibly be the impetus for this bill? And it's hard to understand. I know there may be others who have philosophies on that, but other good questions. All right. Together we are joining today. Senator Glazer and I are both here together with representation from all throughout this community to say, Governor Brown, there is a better way. We are willing to be partners in that better way of collaboration, not coercion. Please veto 2923 so we can be on the right path for housing and transit.
Yeah, thank you, Assemblywoman Baker. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you to all my East Bay City leaders who have worked hard to bring the truth to this debate. We are supportive of housing, but it needs to be done in the right way, and BART's not equipped or capable of doing it. So the governor has until the end of the month to decide. Let's continue our efforts to communicate with him respectfully, but forcefully, that this is not a good answer. This is a bill that's going to end up in court. Millions are going to be spent on lawsuits, fights between cities and the transit agency. It's unproductive. It's not what we need to do to build affordable housing in our community. With that, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.